Hello, everybody out there. Today we're talking nutrition with Dr. William Li, a world-renowned physician, scientist, president, and medical director of the Angiogenesis Foundation, and author of the New York Times best-selling book, Eat to Beat Disease, the new science of how your body can heal yourself. Dr. Li is headed in right now. Hello, Dr. Li. How are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Very excited to talk to you. I was just kind of telling the audience a little bit about yourself. I want to make sure I finish up here with all your highlights and achievements. Dr. Li's TED Talk, Can We Eat to Starve Cancer, has garnered more than 11 million views, and he has appeared as a frequent expert guest on Good Morning America, CNN, Rachel Ray, Live with Kelly and Ryan, and as an expert contributor in USA Today, Time Magazine, The Atlantic, and O Magazine. Dr. Li, you are a very busy man. I don't know how you fit all that into your schedule and even us. So thank you very much. I want to make sure everybody knows to head over to drwilliamli.com to pick up your book, which I actually have my copy right here to show everybody. Been thoroughly enjoying this. So everybody make sure you pick up your copy of Eat to Beat Disease at drwilliamli.com. And Dr. William Li also has a masterclass coming up that's free on January 24th. I just signed up. I suggest everybody else out there do it as well.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for that intro.
You got it. Thank you for your time here. So let's get cracking here because I know you are busy. So in your book, Eat to Beat Disease, it's widely recognized as a go-to book for what foods one should eat. Could you explain this concept and the idea of food being a great medicine to prevent diseases?
Yeah, well, so look, a little background about me to help you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm a physician, internal medicine. So I take care of young and old, men and women, healthy and sick. And one of my own philosophies as a doctor has always been to keep people well as long as possible. And when they get sick, I still use the tools of modern medicine, but my fundamental goal is to get people back to health. And that leads to the big question of what is health actually? Because most people would actually answer the question, what is health, as it's the absence of disease. And as a medical doctor, when I was in med school, that question would keep always coming up is like, how do you define health? And the absence of something is really not a very satisfactory way of defining something positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something positive is the absence of something bad. Like that's not what we want to actually, we can't do anything about that. So I spent some time, really years, diving into trying to understand what is health. And from my background in biotechnology, because I've been involved with helping to develop 41 FDA approved treatments, what I realized is that in addition to chasing disease with better treatments, because patients definitely need better treatments. So I realized that preventing disease was even more important than just simply treating it. And that when you talk about prevention, you cannot talk about drugs. You got to really talk about something like food that is going to be safe and widely available. So back to that question about health. It turns out from my research that health is not simply the absence of disease, but it's actually the result of our body's hardwired health defense systems that we were all born with. So when we were formed in our mom's womb, in her uterus, our bodies were not only forming our livers and hearts and ears and jaws and noses, but also the system, these 5 systems that really form the shields that help to protect our health and ward off disease. And what's amazing about food is that the foods that we actually add to our body can either break down those defenses, which we don't want to do, or we can choose foods that when we eat them, they build up and activate those health defenses. And that is the field of food as medicine.
Fantastic. And like I said, I've been enjoying your book and picking up some little tips and tricks along the way. So if anybody hasn't picked it up, get it now. You will not be disappointed. And about the book, U2 frontman, world-renowned Bono said, quote, "This book will entertain, educate, devour, and then empower you." How do you believe food transforms and restores one's health, Dr. Li?
Well, food is one of the most intimate parts of our lives. It's, we were interacting with food, what we eat, from day one when we appeared on earth. And food's intimate because we all came from someplace and have that memory of some smell or some food from our mom's kitchen that always brings us back to who we are at our roots. And regardless of who you are, what you do, where you're from, we all have origins.
Mhm.
And those origins inform our tastes. And then as we grow up, we're all individuals. So I might like something, really crave something, enjoy kind of food that you might not think is that great, and you might have something different that you think is awesome that I maybe haven't experienced yet. And so food is personal, it's intimate, it takes us all the way back to our beginnings. And that when it comes to health, one of the things that I'm actually trying to upend and turn the equation around on is not to fear our food, because food and health has always been thought about: what should I avoid eating? What should I stay away from? What foods are bad for me? And that focus on negativity actually assigns kind of a negative value to
Hmm.
something that is incredibly powerful for our health. And so my mantra is to love your food and love your health at the same time.
That's a beautiful mantra. Wow, that's great. I gotta build that into my own personal ecosystem. I hope our audience follows your lead with that mantra. With your TED Talk and the free masterclasses, you discuss how we can power our body with the right foods, and we could use those foods to fight off serious diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's. Can you explain a little bit more there?
Yeah, so let's go back to our body's health defenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, some people say, oh, I have been diagnosed with colon cancer or breast cancer. Why did I get it? Or somebody I know has Alzheimer's disease. Why did they get it, right? So that's a natural question that we ask, like, why did we get a disease?
Right.
I'm going to throw it right back and challenge you with a different question, which is,
Hmm.
why don't we get sick more often?
Good question.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll tell you the answer. The answer is our health defenses are working in our behalf. So here's something to think about, right? You know that going to a tanning salon will burn your skin, damage your DNA, and put you at higher risk for skin cancer. You also know if we went to the beach and tan and went to burn and got sunburned repeatedly, put you at risk for melanoma. But did you know that if you sat in traffic, okay, on a freeway on a sunny day, it's the same ultraviolet light that's shining through the windshield at your face. So how come we don't get skin cancer sitting in traffic? It's because our body's health defenses are repairing the DNA damage that occurs during that. But what about if you're filling your car up with gas, right? I always ask people, do you stand upwind or downwind? And people go, well, I don't know why you're asking that question. And what I tell them is that if you smell the fumes from the gas, then you are inhaling solvents that are damaging DNA in your lungs. So why don't you get lung cancer? Because your body's health defenses are repairing that damage that causes. So the reason we don't get sick more often is because these hardwired health defenses prevent cancers from growing, prevent our DNA from mutating, help to regenerate and heal our organs from the inside out, maintain our metabolism, and fight off invaders, foreign invaders like bacteria and viruses on the outside of our body to get from getting into our body, but also help to defend us from invaders from the inside of our body, like cancer. So the reason we don't get sick more often is because our body's hardwired with these health defenses. And so then it goes to, well, what do we do to shore up our defenses? How do we actually make our defenses work even better for us, right? So how do we resist cancer? How do we actually prevent heart disease? How do we actually stave off dementia? That's by choosing the foods that research has shown with data and science and evidence can actually make our health defenses work even better.
This is so much great knowledge. Thank you. Wow. I personally sit in the car when the gas is being pumped, so hopefully that's the right move there. At Fresh and Lean, it's our mission to make eating healthy and easy. Can you explain to us the importance of eating healthy meals with organic, non-GMO ingredients?
Okay, yeah. So these are, you've asked a big set of questions, which is, how do we choose the food that's best for our health? Now,
Yep.
I started off by saying, we're all individuals, so there's no blanket answer. That's the key thing about this. It's a little bit of eating for health is a little bit like mixed martial arts. There's no one style that you use that's going to win the day over all the time. You have to be agile, right? We're all different. We find ourselves day to day in slightly different situations. Not everyone's the same. Not everybody has the same resources. Not everybody lives in the same place. Not everybody's hungry at the same time. So how do we actually have this agility, but make all those right choices? Well, okay. First of all, in terms of our health defenses, what are the foods that actually support them? I'm going to tell you generally how we go about that. But before I do that, let me first get this out of the way. Let me tell you the foods that take your health defenses down.
Uh-oh.
All right. So I'm not telling you to stay away from these foods. I'm just telling you, watch out when you eat these foods because they make your health defenses weaker. So one of the foods that you should think about are added sugars. You overwhelm your body with extra sugar, it's going to make it harder for your health defenses to function. Sugar actually stuns your health defenses, like your stem cells. So everything works a little bit in slow motion, like bullet time in the Matrix. That's basically what added sugar does. Ultra processed foods will do the same thing. The things in a box, when you turn it around, you try to look at the ingredients and you can't pronounce all those ingredients. Those artificial chemicals stun our health defenses, making it harder for them to resist diseases that we actually fear. Lots and lots of saturated fats like you find in red meats or carcinogens that you'd find in processed foods. Those things are actually quite detrimental to our gut health, our gut microbiome, which then protects one of our health defenses. And of course, sugar sweetened beverages. So a lot of people drink these sodas that, 10 tablespoons of sugar in them. That goes back to the beginning. You can easily overwhelm your health defenses. So move those aside. What are we talking about that's good for us, that tastes great?
Yes.
Well, plant-based foods have been universally shown to be beneficial to us. Whole foods, fruits, vegetables, legumes, tree nuts, seeds, healthy oils, seafood. If you're not a vegetarian, can have healthy omega-3s. Within each of these categories, there are healthy choices to be made that you want to marry up with your own personal preferences. I love beets, but you might not like beets, and that's okay. If you want to get the nitric oxide that they can generate to help your blood vessels be healthier, you might like spinach because they can do the same thing. Both of these are nitrogen-rich plants that the microbiome on our tongue converts the nitrogen in the plant into nitric oxide that dilates our blood vessels, lowers our blood pressure, decreases our risk for stroke, and actually mobilizes stem cells so to help our organs regenerate themselves. So this is where the science is. It's almost like biotechnology, except it's biotechnology on a plate in the kitchen from the farmer's market. Now you asked something about organic. And this is something that I've actually been doing research on because for years I was told and I believed that the reason organic is better, more preferable, is because you get less pesticides, right? Who wants to eat pesticides in their food, right? That makes total sense to me, except but trying to convince me to do something because it's less bad is less, it isn't as appealing to me as getting me to do something that's got more good, right? So here's what research is telling us about organic food. It's quite amazing that the natural chemicals, the bioactives in foods like strawberries or the coffee bean, okay? I can tell you what they are. In strawberries, it's called ellagic acid. Cuts off the blood supply to starve cancer from growing in you. It's also anti-inflammatory. It also boosts your immune system. All really good. In a strawberry, that ellagic acid is always made a little bit, but then the plant, the strawberry plant, interprets the nibbling of insects on the leaves and stems as a wound, as an injury. And because ellagic acid is a natural pesticide, what does the plant do when insects nibble on the leaves and stems? They make more ellagic acid and they pack it into the fruit, all right? So it's natural pesticide, but from the plant that happens to be good for us. Now, researchers have taken a look at conventionally grown strawberries, for example, and they're pounded with external synthetic pesticides, let's say. Now you don't have these nibbles. Now the plant doesn't need to make as much ellagic acid. And so when you compare a conventionally grown strawberry with an organic grown one, all right, the organic, hands down, always has more of the bioactives, more of the good stuff, and less of the bad stuff. Now you got my attention because now I got a reason to go after the organic. And this is been found for strawberries. It's also been found for coffee. Coffee has a natural
Really?
bioactive called chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid is anti-inflammatory. It slows down cellular aging. It starves cancer from by preventing blood vessels from growing to feed the cancers. Good for your gut health. So research has been done comparing conventionally grown coffee and organic coffee, looking for chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid is a natural pesticide made by the coffee plant to get rid of those nibbling bugs for the stems and leaves. And so, hands down, every single time, the organic coffee bean has more chlorogenic acid than a conventionally grown one. So again, more good. And that's a good reason to actually to select organic.
That's great news, especially for me because I love coffee. So that's even more reason to probably skip the cream and just continue to go back to black coffee for myself.
Let's talk a little bit about cream. I got to give
Please.
you another little kind of like insider's tip.
Please.
So, look, you know, when I started drinking coffee when I was in medical school and actually in college, I used to put cream and creamers and all that kind of stuff in there, just like everyone else.
Sure.
But here's the scientific fact. Chlorogenic acid is one of these natural bioactives. When you put dairy creamers in, milk, cream, half and half, what happens is that the fat in a dairy forms a little soap bubble around the chlorogenic acid. Okay. And that soap bubble traps it in the middle. When you slug down your coffee, the soap bubbles don't get absorbed as easily as they would if they as the regular coffee. So you're blocking the absorption of the chlorogenic acid. A lot of it you'll absorb about 20% of what you could absorb without the dairy. The rest of it just kind of gets washed through you. The dairy forms these little soap bubbles. They're called micelles. Same thing as green tea. If you want to get the most out of the polyphenols in green tea, don't put milk in it. All right. Sure. You want to actually, because now what if you want, but you want to kind of mellow out the coffee? If you use a nut milk, that's fine. Almond milk, soy milk, totally fine. Does not form those soap bubbles. It's the dairy, the fat in the dairy that does that.
Ah, dropping knowledge here, Dr. Lee. That's huge. Thank you. So people have different dietary plans for different needs, as you probably know. For instance, one Fresh and Lean customer wanting to gain muscle mass will typically subscribe to a paleo or a high protein diet. Another Fresh and Lean subscriber might have the goal of losing weight or adding more plant-based meals. Can you explain to us how dietary plans affect people differently?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to eat to get basic subsistence to survive, right? Anybody who's on a desert island, you know, that's lost in the desert or stuck on a desert island knows the first thing you got to do is find food and water. And if you don't, you're going to wither up and you're going to die. But beyond that, basic subsistence, what we eat really works on different systems in our body and can build up various dimensions of what we want to do. If you want to lose weight, believe it or not, it's not just about starving yourself. It's not just about going keto, but you can actually eat foods that activate some of the bad fat cells to burn down, activate the good fat cells to burn down the bad fat cells. So there are ways of actually tricking your body out in a way that you can actually lose weight that way. Turns out dietary fiber can also help you lose weight. But on the other hand, if you want to build muscle mass, now think about that. What is muscle? It is protein. Now you need protein to build protein, but more than that, you need blood vessels to support the bigger muscle mass. And you need to be able to repair. So if you actually, you know, feel that burn working out, you know, you're really doing a workout to build your muscle, your lean muscle mass, you know, you're going to like that whole no pain, no gain. That pain is microscopic injury to your muscles. That's how you get new muscles, by actually ripping and tearing a little bit of the old ones, and now they're going to repair themselves. So you want to repair those muscles with stem cells, one of your body's health defenses. So you would choose foods that can actually mobilize stem cells, grow better blood vessels, new blood vessels to feed your expanding muscle mass. And you want to repair those tears so that you actually are recovering more quickly. This is why what the needs of a professional athlete are, training and playing, are different than what you would want if you're just trying to lose some weight to get back to the beach, you know, or if you basically want to actually streamline your metabolism. These are the ways that you can, I would say, mindfully Choose
Hmm.
foods that can help you. So, but here's the overlay I want to actually emphasize. And again, I name
Please.
more than 200 different foods in my book, Eat to Beat Disease. What I think is really important is that you want to choose the foods that activate your health defenses to serve you for your own goals, but you want to choose those foods that you actually like to eat,
Mm.
not just the ones that you have to eat. So if you
Hmm.
really, really, and by the way, there's other goals as well. So that are every bit as important. Let's say that you want to build your immunity because you feel run down and you don't feel, and you got to recover from an illness. Okay, you can choose foods to build your immunity. You might not look cut, but you're going to feel cut because your
Hmm.
immune system's going to be so much stronger. So what would you eat for that? You'd have high fiber foods that feed your gut microbiome, beans, legumes, and by the way, it's quite amazing. A cup and a third of navy beans has been shown to actually reduce a centimeter of abdominal weight, your waistline, if you eat that on a regular basis, not because of the protein, but because of the fiber activating your gut microbiome that actually tries to redistribute your body fat in a healthier configuration. And so we're able to sculpt our body with foods as well. Now, and by the way, the gut, that fiber in your gut also talks to your immune system and builds up your immunity. So did you know that 70% of your immune system is actually found in the walls of your intestines?
No.
70%. All right. So when I went to medical school, we were taught, your immune system's actually found in your thyroid and your lymph nodes and all that kind of stuff. Nope, it's in your gut. And right next to them is your gut bacteria. So your gut bacteria basically knock on the wall of your gut to talk to your immune system. Better gut health, better immune health.
All right, so navel beans are going on the grocery list the second we wrap up here for the next order that's going to be delivered. So again, another pro tip. Thank you so much. So we love that you talk about what to eat instead of what to avoid, and that you're not opposed to some chocolate or wine, as you mentioned in the book. What do you think are the most important foods to have daily? And I'm going to probably assume that's going to depend on person to person, but how would you answer that one?
Yeah, well, so, I get asked this question all the time. Dr. Lee, what do you eat? What's the one thing that you eat that everyone else should eat? I'm going to give you a handful of foods that I think are some of my favorites from a health perspective, but I
Hmm.
will tell you that it's less about what I eat than how I eat. How do I approach my food? And what I always do is I do look for that whole plant-based approach. I do
Hmm.
think about organic. I do think about diversity because our bodies crave variation. So you don't want to say, oh, is celery good for you? Well, then I'll have celery all the time. No, that's the wrong way of doing it completely. And the other way that I approach is I really am mindful of trying to step out of the way of urban legends. Don't eat tomatoes because they're nightshades. Don't have soy because they cause breast cancer. By the way, both of those are urban legends that are false.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
they're totally false.
Wow.
And so what I try to do is I'll tell you sort of like five foods. Green tea. I always drink
Hmm.
green tea. My great uncle lived to 104, completely healthy, completely intact, and he attributes his longevity to living at the base of a tea mountain, where at 4:30 every morning he would walk up the hill and he'd sit and sip tea and watch the sun come up. All right. Now
That's
we
amazing.
know that green tea has polyphenols that
Hmm.
actually starve cancer, mobilize stem cells, keep our gut healthy, boost our immunity, and our antioxidant protect our DNA. And so I don't know if that was really his secret, but that's what he always attributed it. And by the way, green tea has been so much supported by research. Dark chocolate. Okay, you mentioned chocolate before.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about milk chocolate. Look, chocolate. A chocolate bar is a confection. A confection is something that is made in a kitchen or made in a factory with lots of loaded sugars and all kinds of other goodies. Okay, that might not be so good, but the cacao that is
Hmm.
the basis of chocolate is a plant-based food. Cacao's a seed pod, grows off of a tree. You cut it open, around the seed is a little rind of flesh that looks like a lychee. It's sweet and sour. You can nibble on it, and then those seeds are dried, fermented, ground up, and turned into chocolate powder, cacao
Okay.
powder. That cacao powder, 85% or higher, actually is antioxidant, mobilizes stem cells, improves your circulation. It's a fiber in it that's good for gut health. I love dark chocolate. You can have it
Oh,
as hot chocolate. You can have it as a piece of chocolate to have with your coffee. You can cook with chocolate, not just the mole sauce, which is also a good way to do it, but you can
Mm-hmm.
also shave it into things, and all kinds of different ways. The great thing about the internet is if you want to find a clever way of using dark chocolate, you say dark chocolate cooking recipe video, and then let somebody else tell you fun
Sure.
ways to actually do it. All right, so that's a second one. I love tree nuts. I like to snack on tree nuts. So
Mm-hmm.
tree nuts are pine nuts, walnuts, pistachios, pecans, almonds, cashews, a whole range of them. Great source of dietary fiber, activates your health defenses, lowers inflammation, um, boosts immunity. Here's a fascinating research study that people need to hear about. A study of almost 800 people with stage 3 colon cancer. That's pretty advanced. Getting
Yeah.
treatment, getting treatment in the hospital with their oncologist underwent a study where they were found that if those patients with stage 3 colon cancer ate a couple of handfuls of tree nuts a week, not a day,
Mm.
okay, they had a 57% chance, 57% lower chance of dying of their disease.
Wow.
Amazing, right?
Wow.
The gut fiber activates your microbiome, which activates your immune system, which helps your cancer treatment. Like, this is life and death kind of stuff. A study that just
Yeah.
came out, by the way, last week in the journal Science actually showed in people with melanoma getting treated with the latest state-of-the-art cancer treatment called immunotherapy that not everybody responds. They found the people who responded were the people who had a healthier gut bacteria, healthier gut microbiome, with one bacteria called ruminococcus. People don't need to spell that. It's just one. We're starting to identify this stuff. That's the amazing thing about food as medicine research. But here's a key thing: you can grow that bacteria with dietary fiber. How much fiber? What they found was 5 grams of fiber per
Mm-hmm.
day, which is the amount of fiber you would find in a average size pear or a
Okay.
big apple,
Mm-hmm.
could lower your risks of mortality by 30%.
Wow.
Amazing, right? So
Wow.
this is not food versus medicine. This is adding food and medicine. And by the way, the doctor can write the cancer treatment. You and only you can make that decision at home of what to add to your body in terms of diet itself. So that's the power. So tree nuts, also a good source of dietary fiber. I love berries of all sorts, blueberries,
Mm-hmm.
strawberries we talked about, boost your immunity,
Mm-hmm.
anti-androgenic. And then the final thing I would say that I would add to it is one of my favorites is actually a juicy ripe peach. It's just one of my
Oh,
personal favorites.
yeah.
Like in the summertime, there's nothing I love more than actually see this juicy ripe peach I can smell from across the room.
Oh, that's fantastic. I hope everybody was taking notes, and we're going to put this up on our YouTube page a little later on. But Dr. Lee, before you run, I know you're busy, and if everybody doesn't understand, Dr. Lee is an active doctor. This is one of his many things he does. Quick softball question for you. What's your absolute favorite meal? Like if it's gotta name the one favorite meal. If you have one or two, can you share
You
with
know,
us?
can I tell you? I'll tell you the most surprising meal that I ever had that I actually now call one of my all-time favorites. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I was as part of my research work, I give a lot of talks at conferences.
Mm-hmm.
I was once in Barcelona and I wandered to the market, the fresh market, which is where I always go when I visit a town. And Barcelona is kind of a foodie town. And I sat down at this completely nondescript tapas kind of place just to have some breakfast, right? And so the guy behind the counter said, well, we'll give you the special of the day. And of course, it's fresh seafood, all this kind of stuff, fresh eggs. And he said, well, do you want some eggs? I eat eggs. And so I thought, sure. And so this guy pulled out a handful of fresh clams. They're called Tellerines. These are
Mm-hmm.
flat they're dime shaped clams. They're really thin.
Mm-hmm.
He popped them into a wok with a little extra virgin olive oil, um, uh, and just fired up those clams until they opened and released their amazing juices, which contain omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh yeah.
And he poured a organic farm fresh egg, never been refrigerated, never had been chemically purified, and just made scrambled eggs with clam. I'll tell you, I never even imagined I could have
What
anything
a,
so tasty, but it was a healthy, amazingly delicious meal.
what a combo. We had one question come in. For those that are creative types that are in front of a computer, or they're working on a TV show, they're in an editing room for long, dark hours, and they are grinding from 7 a.m. to 10, 11 o'clock at night. What would you suggest those people that they really are like tied to their desks almost? What should they be eating for those types of long, nonstop, high pressure moments? You know, whether you're a student studying, you can't take breaks, or you're on a deadline for a project in a dark space. What would you tell those people to make sure at least eat these couple things to keep yourself?
Yeah, well, listen, I will tell you, I had to walk that walk
Mm.
because I was a medical student tied to a desk, studying for 4 years. It's a lot of sitting time, all right, and a lot of focus time. Here's the first rule of thumb before thinking about what to eat. You can always afford, no matter how busy you are, what the deadline is, to get up and be physically active a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a few minutes of a time over the course of a day can make all the difference in the world. By the way, sitting for long periods of time damages your gut microbiome. Your gut bacteria don't like that lack of activity. So you've got to do it. If don't not for yourself, do it for your gut bacteria because they're going to actually help you be healthier overall. But what about foods that you can actually do when you're sitting? Well, there's a no-brainer, which is coffee or tea, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
most people are able to sit in front of a screen and sip a cup of Joe or sip a
Sure.
cup of tea. That is
Absolutely.
definitely worth doing. That's a easy way to get stuff in. I would say have a bowl of nuts out, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a nut allergy. And by the way, like you want to be careful about how deeply roasted nuts are because it is true if you kind of over roast them, you can get these acrylamides. These are these little chemicals that actually can form. Look, everything is a matter of extent. So you don't want
Sure.
to burn anything, right? So get nuts that are nice. By the way, make sure you're not getting nuts that are coated with chemicals. So if you're going to get any kind of nuts that are spiced or flavored, please look at the label on the
Mm-hmm.
package. Make sure you know what's in there, and choose the nuts that actually have more that have natural flavorings, or better yet, get plain and flavor it yourself.
There you go.
That's important. There's a great study I'm actually reviewing for my next book right now that I'm writing that is amazing. There was a spice mix that was studied, and there are things like rosemary and cardamom and cinnamon and garlic powder, things like that that are allspice, things that are easy to kind of mix together. And they
Mm-hmm.
were studying what the effect of putting that on the food is. And it turns out that you can actually lower inflammation in your body, dilate your blood vessels, make your blood vessels healthy just by adding spices, which is quite
Wow.
remarkable. So
Wow.
spice up your tree nuts as a snack. So I could go on, but I think that those two things are simple tip offs. Coffee or tea. Remember, use a
Mm-hmm.
nut milk rather than dairy, so you can get as much of those polyphenols as possible. And put a bowl of nuts there and spice them up yourself the way you like them.
That's fantastic. This is an amazing amount of knowledge from navel beans to the perfect nut mix of spices, and a teaser about a new book as well was referenced in there to tease the audience a bit. So we'll be excited on the lookout for that. Again, everybody, reminder: New York Times best-selling book, Eat to Beat Disease: The New Science of How Your Body Can Heal Itself, available at drwilliamlee.com. His masterclass, January 24th. To register for that, it's free. Go to drwilliamlee.com/masterclass. I'll be there. He'll be there. We hope everybody else here will be there too. So thank you again, Dr. William Lee. We truly appreciate everything you've done for us, and we look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks very much. Great to be on.
Thanks. Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye-bye.